at this meeting. Please fill out a card in the back. It's got a yellow header on it, a speaker card, and bring it forward. We'll make sure you're heard. Thank you all for being here. And yeah, in just about a minute, we'll get started. Thank you. Oh, you're fine. You good? Phone on silent. Hello.
That's just something that, I don't know if you got it last night, Google Meet.
Thank you. That was interesting.
Yeah. No, it's actually Google Meet has that at the very beginning about homelessness and stuff like that.
We'll get started. Good evening, everyone. It is 5:00 p.m., March 19th, 2024, Tuesday. We are here at the City Hall Council Chambers at 100 Polk Avenue in Cape Canaveral, Florida, for our City of Cape Canaveral Community Redevelopment Agency, CRA, regular board meeting. Call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. For those of you listening in online. And again, thank council and staff, this board and city staff and department directors for being here as well. With that, I'd like to ask our vice chair, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kellum. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Board Member Davis.
Here.
Board Member Jackson.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Kellum.
Here.
Chairperson Morrison.
Here.
Board Member Willis.
Here.
Thank you all for being here. Now we'll go to got a couple of presentations and an overview today as we're getting settled in. All good?
It's still standing, so.
That's good. The first is a thanks and appreciation to the City of Cape Canaveral and the CRA Board for assistance in the funding of the Veterans of Foreign Wars VFW Post 10131 New Military Service Wall, presented by VFW Post 10131 Senior Vice Commander Joe Tickett. Vice Commander, are you here today? Thank you very much. And this is the first item, and it's a thanks and appreciation to the City of Cape Canaveral, as I said, for the service wall. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to go by and see it, it's a really, really nice project, and want to thank everyone, especially Vice Chair Kellum and the background provided by our Community Development Director, Dickey, was very helpful. Just in summary, established in 1975, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW Post 10131's primary charter has been to support military veterans. Consistently satisfying that purpose, VFW Post 10131 has been a consistent staple of the Cape Canaveral community, providing a location for special events, supporting local establishments with funds and services, and conducting military events throughout the community. Vice Chair Kellum, if you'd like to explain the section we're talking about, the military service wall, take us from there and share a little bit with the public about this.
Well, I've been a member there at the post for 30 years, and the wall that they redid was in need of some sprucing up and adding military chapters to the Space Force, along with the other branches, and Joe, I'm sure, will tell you all about that. But I was glad to tell them about the CRA incentive program and grant money that we're giving to businesses and residents to help spruce up their property. And they took the ball and ran with it, and it looks beautiful. And they're continuing to do more improvements, but it's really nice to see the money at work in a good place for our military veterans. So I'm sure Joe will fill you in on all the details.
Well, thank you. Could not go past without recognizing City Manager. Any comments before Vice Commander Joe, you want to come forward? Please, thank you.
Mr. Titchich has been instrumental in this project and so many good things with the VFW, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mayor Pro Tem and CRA Board Co-Chair for all she's done in our veterans communities. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Vice Commander, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, members of the board, thank you very much for allowing me to come here and speak on behalf of the VFW Post 10131. Most of my speech was already talked about, so I'm done. Not really. Presentation will be brief, and what I would like is to invite any questions at the very end of this thing, maybe take about maybe 10 minutes. Our post came into being, it was mentioned in 1975, almost 50 years ago. The primary purpose for our VFW is to support veterans in their needs. For example, if they have trouble with medical issues, they can come to our post, and we can provide guidance for them to get that resolved. For almost 50 years, we've also supported the community, and this is a very big driving force that we have. And just a recent example, we've given donations to Cape View Elementary for many, many years, and we just gave them money for the PTO. We just provided them money once again. Outside of the community, though, we've given money to Merritt Island baseball team. There was a request for some funds that we could support, and there's not a VFW in Merritt Island, so we thought that we could provide that support as well. The local high schools have a robotics team, and that was kind of a strange thing. What does that have to do with veterans? Not a thing at all. But we want to support the local community, and that's one of the other things that we've supported is the robotics team. Kind of a fun thing. So we continue that's just a very few examples, but supporting the community is one thing that we strive for, and that's on a continuous basis. If we have funds to hand out, we constantly think of ideas, different ideas, to support this great community that we live in. Our facility is located on an intersection that is well traveled by neighbors and visitors, and as such, the image of the VFW is seen by many, many people. Over 25 years ago, the original wall was put on, the military plaque wall was put up. And it looked beautiful back then, but over the years it started to deteriorate. 9 years ago, one of the members of our post and the previous commander paid someone to paint a mural on the outside wall. And if you've driven by there and seen that, it's a beautiful mural. In fact, there's certain areas that are in there that have the fire department, the local fire department, as well as the sheriff departments. There's also in that mural as well. If you've not seen that, I invite you to come by and take a look at that. But what that mural did is it made that plaque, that military plaque wall, look even worse because it was deteriorated. So we started a couple years ago. We brought that to the post attention, and we thought we need to get this changed. But funding is not readily available, so we put it on hold. Last November, we had a ceremony over at the Veterans Park, and many of you were at that ceremony, and we certainly appreciate you being there. Afterwards, at the VFW, we had a luncheon. And at that luncheon, it was brought to our attention that maybe we could use CRA funds to get this plaque done. And the rest is history. Kind of a fun thing. So thank you very much for supporting our VFW. If I could talk, could I just have a couple more minutes?
Please, yes, sir.
Okay. If I could talk about the wall itself. The wall its purpose is to recognize the military services that are in the United States. A lot of people they think of the Army and the Navy and the Air Force and the Marines, but some people forget that the Coast Guard, they think of Coast Guard, what do they have to do with overseas assignments, and why are they on a VFW wall? I would tell you, and you can look into this, the Coast Guard deploys over to the Middle East on a regular basis. They deploy to Japan. They deploy to Korea. You think the United States Coast Guard is just along the coast of the U.S.? That is not true. They are all over the world. That's the reason that they're up there as well. The Army National Guard and the Air National Guard, the plaques that are up there today were not up there a couple of months ago. And we made the decision to put them in there. The National Guard, many might think that's a state military, and it is. But the National Guard, a lot of people don't realize that the National Guard has two functions. They report to the governor, and they also report to the President of the United States when they're deployed overseas. They have a dual function, and they're very, very busy. And I can speak to that personally. A couple of us from the VFW were in the National Guard and deployed many times. And if you want to hear some stories, stop by and we'll tell you some stories about overseas as the National Guard. I have two more items. One thing, our post has a commemorative coin. And what I'd like to do is to present that to you, if you don't mind the commander presenting that to you at this time. We don't hand these coins out very often. We're very selective on who we give this to. You want to say something, or you want to hand them out? All right.
Happy to.
While he's talking, while he's doing that, this coin is something that is not handed out not very often, and it's a relatively new thing that we have. It was completely designed by one of our post members, and it's a very unique coin, that's for sure.
Oh, that's a beautiful one.
Oh, please.
Sir, would you mind coming to the podium? So we have some folks live streaming the recording. Please, welcome.
If I may expand on what he was talking about with the National Guard and Reservists. Most people don't know, at any one time during the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts, wars, 50% of the forces on ground were National Guard and Reservists. 50% at any one time during all those years. So yes, National Guard and Reservists absolutely are in defense of our country and should be recognized of that. Thank you.
You.
Two more items. One thing, I'd like to specifically pick on Mickey, Councilman Mickey Kellum, and Don Willis. Those two people have supported our post as many other people have done here before. But without your support, we may have never known about the CRA funds. And we may not have that beautiful wall out there right now. So thank you. I just wanted to pick on you and embarrass you in front of your peers. I always like doing that.
Thank you, Joe.
With that, I'd like to also recognize the city staff with Todd and Kyle. Kyle's not here. Dave.
Kyle's here.
Where'd Kyle go? There he is. Zach and Amy. And lastly, I like to pick on Mia. I've known Mia longer than anybody else in the city here. In fact, my wife sitting in the back there, she told me not to point her out, but I'm going to anyway. She used to volunteer with Mia for several years in the office, and whenever I need some help from the city, I call Mia. With that, I open up to any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. And there is no stronger community partner than the VFW, and from my experience of being here and seeing all that you've done. So we want to thank you, and this is such a win for the community to help bring the awareness you said forward, and echo, thank you for sharing, Vice Chair Mayor Pro Tem Callum, Council Member Willis. Thank you. These funds are available, and this is exactly the way I think we intended it being reinvested back in the community. So
Yeah, thank you again, and I can't emphasize it, without these funds, I don't know when that wall would have been done. So thank you again very
Thank
much.
you. Council, any other comments? Thank you. If you'd like to come forward, we can, Council, would you like to come down and get a photograph and community CRA? Please, thanks.
Excellent job, Mickey and Dawn.
Very nice. And for anyone who'd like to see the coin, or I'll certainly be leaving one down in the mayor's office. This is beautiful. Very honored. Any other final comments, board, city staff? That was very nice. Thank you again. So with that, we will go on to the next item, which is an overview of the city CRA presented by CRA Board Attorney, Mr. Anthony Garganese.
Thank you.
Comfortable? Wherever you're comfortable.
Okay. What? Oh, just tell you next page. Okay, we can go that way again. I like the room and work my audience from the podium. No, just kidding. Okay, so I've been asked to give you a little presentation on CRAs. A couple of months ago, we made a brief presentation to the Bed Board, and we went over the Bed Board's new responsibilities as of the advisory board to the CRA, and went over a few other housekeeping items, and went over generally what a CRA is. So I took that base presentation, added some slides to it, updated it, took out a bunch of slides, and I'm going to give you this presentation, which is a basic framework regarding community redevelopment. As I mentioned to the council many times before, when the council serves as the CRA board, you're wearing a completely different hat, and in essence, you are actually a different entity. A CRA is a special district. It's not a municipal corporation. It's a special district. It's established by the city and established by the county pursuant to the Community Redevelopment Act of 1969. In 2012, the city and the county created this CRA agency. And the primary purpose of a CRA is to, and I'm really hitting very, very high points, but I hope that you take from this presentation some of these highlights, because it really puts you in the right frame of mind when you're sitting up here as a CRA board, what your function responsibilities are. It's not completely different, but substantially different than when you serve as a city council. So the primary purpose of the CRA, of course, is the prevention and elimination of slum and blight. And the second primary purpose is the preservation or enhancement of the tax base. The tax base that's referred to is the ad valorem tax base of the CRA area. So two primary purposes: removal and elimination, prevention of slum and blight, again, preservation and enhancement of the tax base. So the CRA, as you know by now, has a very specific geographical area. It's like being in a baseball field. I mean, you are confined within that playing field, and that's where you play ball. That's where the CRA focuses. That's where the CRA expends its money. That's where the CRA generates its money. It's all in this so-called Yankee Stadium of CRA area. So the CRA must perform community redevelopment activities and related activities. And related activities are generally all those things that lead up to actual redevelopment. The planning work, the acquisition and disposal of property. It can also include providing for affordable housing, and in addition, community policing, which is a specific type of community policing or policing services that can occur within a CRA area. It's fundamental that every CRA must have a redevelopment plan. That's the written constitution, so to speak, for the redevelopment agency. It lays out all your goals and objectives, and I'm going to get to why that's so important in a few minutes. The redevelopment plan and all the actions of the CRA must be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan as well. So community redevelopment defined. What I've done is I've taken, and it means much more, but I've taken the statutory definition in the Community Redevelopment Act of '69 and I parsed it, rather than just show you as the whole complete definition, because I want to break it down because there's a lot of good stuff in the definition that sometimes people overlook. So community redevelopment means undertakings, activities, or projects of a community redevelopment agency or a city. It could be a city as well. And it's in a community redevelopment area for the elimination and prevention of the development or spread of slum and blight, or the reduction or prevention of crime, or for the provision of affordable housing, whether for rent or for sale, to residents of low or moderate income, including the elderly. And it may include slum clearance and redevelopment in the community redevelopment area, or rehabilitation and revitalization of coastal resort and tourist areas that are deteriorating and economically distressed, or the rehabilitation or conservation in a community redevelopment area. And then it goes on, or any combination or part thereof, and very importantly, in accordance with the community redevelopment plan. Meaning community redevelopment can be all of these things, provided it's in your community redevelopment plan. Next slide. So once you create this, as you know, once you create the agency generates monies, and those monies are deposited in a redevelopment trust fund, and those monies are called tax increment financing, short TIF. And what's important about TIF, it's monies that are actually locally generated and controlled. So they're locally generated from ad valorem taxes within the community redevelopment area. Now the agency, as you know, doesn't levy taxes. It gets a share of ad valorem taxes that are generated from real property within the community redevelopment area. So how is that determined? Well, you have to establish a base year, which is the year that the CRA is created. In Cape Canaveral's case, it's 2012. and we looked at the dollar valuation of real property within the CRA area, and we froze the value of all of that property in 2012. Now, the city and the county and other taxing authorities, they get the property tax value on the frozen value of the valuation in 2012, and that money goes into the taxing agency's, general fund for general fund purposes. However, and this is the beautiful thing about, CRAs, any city and county tax revenues from increases in real property value, called the incremental value, are deposited in the CRA trust fund. So that's how the CRA generates its monies. You take that frozen value, that money continues to go to the city and the county's, general fund. But all the valuation that has occurred in the CRA since 2012, those ad valorem taxes, generally speaking, come to the CRA and get deposited in the CRA trust fund. And the CRA trust fund, they call it a trust fund because it has to be dedicated to the CRA redevelopment area. And those trust funds must be expended by the CRA board on redevelopment activities authorized by statute and the CRA plan. So that's why it's so important if you want to have certain redevelopment activities, you want to expend dollars on those redevelopment activities, we need to make sure that the CRA plan allows for that, as well as the statute. Now, once those monies are deposited into the trust fund, the CRA board can expend those funds relatively, immediately. CRA can save those trust funds for a specific project, or CRAs can bond to maximize the funds that are available. Moving on, there are some conditions on the Cape Canaveral CRA that were imposed by the county in 2018. Actually, they were negotiated. That was the year that the county went forward and requested that each of the cities that have CRAs enter into interlocal agreements, and Cape Canaveral did in 2018. And some key points about that interlocal agreement to keep in mind: Cape Canaveral CRA sunsets and terminates September 30th, 2040. And you may not remember this, but the county's TIF contribution is based on the county's or the city's millage rate, whichever is lower. Keep that in mind. No limitation on debt. However, the county's portion of the TIF payments to the CRA cannot be pledged as a source of revenue to pay back any debt beyond the CRA's termination date of September 30th, 2040. So CRA administration services is capped at 5% of the total TIF payments that the CRA receives. And lastly, as you know, the CRAs has to have an annual audit report on CRA expenditures prepared, just to make sure that CRA is expending the monies, its TIF revenues, for proper purposes, and then that audit report gets filed with the county on an annual basis. So when you go and you look at the city's CRA redevelopment plan that was enacted probably back in 2012, there's some general categories to keep in mind, and these categories are important to keep in mind when the CRA is determining how to spend the TIF revenues that are being deposited in the TIF fund. First category is business and development assistance, and the plan lays out a lot of different examples of possible business and development assistance, including but not limited to, looking for partnership opportunities with the city and the CRA, which this city CRA has done on several occasions for redevelopment projects. Improvements and beautification programs like facade, sign replacement, landscape sprinkler upgrades, incentive funds for economic development, investigate low-interest loan pool with banks. That's really hasn't been an issue. New business rent assistance, impact fee assistance, job creation bonus program. Next slide. The plan also mentions catalyst projects, including public parking facilities, shared stormwater retention, property acquisition, town center project, and public-private partnerships. Plan also talks about public improvements to provide necessary public facilities, including utilities. If you recall, the CRA made a contribution to the regional lift station on the east side of US 1 near Imperial, and that lift station services several new hotels, as well as other proposed redevelopment that's coming our way. Also wayfinding signage, road improvements, street improvements, pedestrian and bicycle mobility, stormwater management. Those are all authorized type of redevelopment activities within the plan. Lastly, I think it also talks about planning studies related to redevelopment initiatives, because many times you can't have redevelopment initiatives unless you put together appropriate plans to get you where you want to go. There's some soft cost things that are referenced in the plan: branding and marketing, business recruitment, special events. Those types of expenditures, are probably not the most advisable types of expenses for redevelopment funds. More of the brick and mortar is more of the traditional CRA expenditures. There's some language in the plan about entering into interlocal agreements. As you know, the CRA and the city have entered into interlocal agreements on redevelopment activities. There's also reference to, as I mentioned, the community policing innovation of activities, which is community policing. City of Cocoa, actually, CRA spends some of its CRA dollars on community policing within its downtown area that the CRA felt were appropriate redevelopment expenses. And then development of short and long-term project schedules, which is planning related. Next slide. And that's really a high overview of CRAs in Cape Canaveral. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, City Attorney. Council, any questions for City Attorney after that presentation? I have one. The example of, not advisable types of expenditures, have we seen any case law or any issues where cities we've learned from?
There's one attorney, I think, off the top of my head, there's one attorney general opinion that talks about, expenditure of CRA funds for like promotional type activities that probably don't fit really cleanly in the, definition of redevelopment.
The recent Attorney General, or do you know if it goes?
No, it goes back, I lost track of time, Mayor. It could be 10, 15 years.
Just an idea,
Yeah,
okay.
it gives you an idea of why I say those soft costs maybe aren't the most advisable expenditures, especially if you have more priority brick and mortar items to expend the money on.
Thank you. Okay, if there's not anything else, I think we can move on.
Okay.
Appreciate it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now we are at the public participation portion of the meeting. If anyone wanted to speak at our CRA board meeting here today, I don't have any cards here, and the right now, the virtual stream is not, I think, accessible, but we might get that resolved hopefully for the next meeting. Either way, if anyone would like to speak, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public participation, bring it back to the board here with new business. First one is to approve the minutes for the September 20th, 2023 board meeting. Looking for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, Board Member Willis, seconded by Vice Chair Kellum to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? City Clerk?
Board Member Davis.
4.
Board Member Jackson.
4.
Vice Chairperson Kellum.
4.
Chairperson Morrison.
4.
Board Member Willis.
4.
Minutes pass 5-0. Next and final item, a new business, is item number 2, request Community Redevelopment Agency CRA Board direction to the Business and Economic Development BED Board to provide recommendations on how CRA expenditures should be prioritized for the fiscal year 24-25 CRA budget. And with that, City Manager, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are beginning the budget season in earnest. We have a CIP workshop coming up here. It's early April, John, is that right? April 4th. And because of that, we thought this is a good time to queue up the bed board's involvement in as a CRA advisory board. As the board will require in 2023, the board passed an ordinance that made the Business and Economic Development Board an advisory board on CRA expenditures. And they're aware of that. They've received the same training that the city attorney gave tonight. And they will be discussing how, in their opinion, we should be utilizing CRA funds going not only into this next budget, but perhaps with all the other longer-term activities planned for the CRA TIF revenue. As we know, the CRA is growing every year. It's amazed us and how well it's done year over year. And we've got a lot of things planned for it. The CIPs include CRA CIPs, notably the Presidential Streets Master Plan, which is a long-term project, but also the Civic Hub, and the stormwater work that's to be done to relieve things in the basin and Presidential Streets. So with all these things coming together, I wanted to let the board and the city council know that we had a really great meeting with Kimley Horn, the city engineer, and things are coming together. So the Presidential Streets one-way plan is come in. The feasibility study and drainage analysis for the Civic Hub has come in. And Kimley Horn's going to be prepared to make a presentation to our city council next April at the April city council meeting, where they're going to synthesize the results of all this. That will bring home to roost what we want to do with this CRA money. So the timing's perfect. You got the business board making recommendations on how we should be spending this money. We got the projects coming together and synthesizing into, okay, this makes sense for a plan to go forward for the Presidential Streets, the Civic Hub, and a recommendation from the bed board. Perfect timing for all of this. So with that, we're just asking if this board wishes to do that, we will set it up for the bed board to consider all of those things in terms of their experience in redevelopment and financial knowledge about how to best leverage the monies that we have, the projected revenues that we have to accomplish all these very lofty goals that we have for our CRA. And John, did I miss anything? Or Dave, did I miss anything that I need to cover there? I see heads nodding no, sir. So if it's the board's pleasure, a motion would be appropriate to ask the bed board to provide input and direction on recommendations on how CRA expenditures should be prioritized for the fiscal year 24-25 CRA budget and beyond.
Thank you very much. So this attachment 2 demonstrates the list of projects or expenditures, excuse me, And this goes to the CRA Board to review?
They will have this, yes, sir.
And then is it, they provide a recommendation and feedback on this attachment too? Is that a part of it?
This is the current adopted budget. John?
Yep.
Right, so Mayor, I would,
Oh, yes, please, thank you.
is my mic working? Yeah.
It says it's on.
Mayor, I would think, when I look at what's happening here, and like Todd says, 24, this is the 24-25 recommendation. And so we're gonna have a CIP on April 4th, and all the CIPs will be there for council to review for 24-25. So, and Dave, I think I'll ask you, because I think where we're going here is, so this bed board is gonna look at those CIPs for 24-25, right? I would have to think, well, they'll have to look at those CIPs. So they'll make recommendations towards those CIPs you're gonna look on April 4th. And then, I don't know if there'll be anything in addition to that, Dave, but,
I think
but
what-
that's the stuff that they're gonna have to,
I think maybe what board chair is asking him, why is attachment 2 here?
oh, well, go ahead, yeah.
I'll put this agenda item together.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Evening.
Yes, the reason that attachment 2 was included was just to give the CRA board a refresher on what was in the CRA budget for this year, and you could anticipate a similar budget coming before the CRA board for final action, typically in September. So this is just a refresher of, these are some of the things that the board, well, these are the things that the board funded in the 23-24 budget. So you could anticipate similar things coming up this fiscal year, in the upcoming fiscal year. The only thing I would say is that the Presidential Streets Master Plan could potentially become more of a significant funded project than opposed to last year. This current year we're in was just, I think it was $300,000, and it was more for design and just kind of the preliminary steps of the implementation of the plan. This coming 24-25 is going to be where we actually start constructing things. So that 300,000 is probably going to become a larger number moving forward in the CRA budget.
So Dave, is it fair to say that attachment 2 is here for background information
Yes.
for the business board to understand what our typical operating expenditures are, our
Yes.
typical and current capital outlay plans are, and what our current debt service is?
Correct.
Background information.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and so, and I appreciate you putting this in here, because this is sort of a framework that can say, hey, we're gonna, looking forward, add the column 24-25, here's what we're doing today. If you're asking for us to consider that, I think that's a good idea. Council, or board, any other questions?
I have a question or two. Excuse me. With the bed board, I know we had originally talked, when we brought them on, about going through the plan that was done in 2012 and updating it to reflect the new ideas and new things we want to do. Wouldn't that need to be done before we pick projects or prioritize projects? Don't we need the plan to be brought up to speed? So, I mean, all possibilities are in the plan, because you can't do anything unless it's in the plan.
Yeah, that's certainly, you certainly want your expenditures to be consistent with your redevelopment plan. As Anthony indicated in his presentation, we don't want to be funding things that aren't consistent and aren't called for in our CRA plan. So yes, the quick answer is yes. Now, we are currently, the bed board is currently working on a number of updates to include the Economic Development Action Plan. Right now, we don't have a specific project to update the CRA plan.
Right, and I think it's important, as Dave points out, there are two separate plans. There's a CRA plan, which this board has the ability to modify and implement, and the duty to follow through. Then there's the Economic Development Action Plan, which is a separate document with a different goal in mind. It's about acknowledging where we are, our strengths and limitations, but also what we aspire to be. That document, that board is working on, but I think we need to think of it as separate from the CRA plan for purposes of this agenda item.
Well, I was just, we had talked about land acquisition and fixing the blight in the city and by purchasing different properties and redeveloping them. Will that be part of the information that the bed board gets to prioritize the projects? I mean, I don't.
They'll be given an entire look at what the CRA board has done, what the CRA is currently committed to, but also what the council has put out there as projects. Because these projects are multi-year and very large and very impactful to the CRA. We thought this item would be a great idea to get their input on how we fund those things and going through not only this next fiscal year cycle, but in future fiscal years.
And I think if you look at it, Mayor, that if what Dave's saying is the extensiveness and the scope of a presidential street, let's just say for talking purposes, that next year, not that this is what it's going to be, but let's say that we identify a lot of things and this presidential street next year is going to cost us $2 million. Well, there may be $2.8 million in the CRA next year, and $800,000 of it will be the debt service we pay to repair the loans, whatever we're repaying. So that might leave $2 million for predominantly doing the presidential street. Now, that's not saying we're going to do it all in 1 year, but all I'm saying is that the presidential street could dominate the CRA budget. And in future years, I believe as we continue and see how much this stuff costs, it could truly dominate the CRA budget.
That's going to be a policy decision from the CRA board and the council on how that'll be funded. But yeah, you could spend a lot of money on this presidential streets.
Well, that's my question, we all want the presidential streets to be done, but does that take priority over buying blighted property, fixing that?
Well, I mean, another option for the board is, we're updating the EDAP, the Economic Development Action Plan right now. I mean, that's certainly within this board's prerogative to say, hey, we want the CRA plan to be updated too, because that was done in 2011-12. So just like the EDAP, that CRA plan is getting a little dated.
Yeah. Well,
And those would be the kind of things that would come out of an update of the CRA plan as funding priorities and where this board wants to spend those monies.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think it's a good idea to, anytime we can lean on our boards to bring, their perspective. I like the idea of prioritizing projects, and so, yes, any other questions, board?
I think it'd be very helpful for the bid board, the CRA advisory board to provide us with how they see that prioritization happening. Hopefully they can add some additional color to it and come up with some creativity.
Well, if you know the people on that bed board, they're pretty colorful. Some of them are.
Yeah.
So yeah, and creative, and business folks, business-minded folks. So I think it could be very valuable input.
Board Member Davis, anything? No. Board Member Jackson? No. Seeing none, any final comments?
Just the form of the motion, talking with the city attorney, the form of the motion could very well be request the bed board provide input and recommendations on the prioritization of the use of available funds for redevelopment activities.
If I could comment, because I believe what the chairman was trying to draw out regarding this attachment is the attachment is the budget. And it's not the intent of the staff to ask the bed board to make a recommendation on the budget. What, I think, what the staff is requesting is when, as the manager indicated, give a recommendation on the use of available funds, right, that are available for redevelopment activities. How are those funds prioritized?
Exactly.
Not a recommendation on
Just
the
like you were saying.
budget.
That sounds better.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because if you have $2 million, an estimated $2 million every year, and again, I'm just estimating for the next 3 years in the CRA, Vice Chair, when you asked the question about how the money could be spent, if could be dominated by presidential streets or something else, that's where the board will have to say, you know what, we're gonna do $1.3 million for presidential streets this year, but you know what, we wanna make sure we have the $50K for grant programs, we wanna make sure we do this other thing for $200K. So you're right, like you were saying, you'll have to determine how you wanna prioritize that $2 million you have. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so the recommendation here, could we just read that, or does that, we need to maybe hear one more time from you?
I think a better motion after the city attorney's input is request the Community Redevelopment Agency Board, I'm sorry, you would make, as a board, you'd make this motion, request that the Business and Economic Development Board provide recommendations on the prioritized use of available funds for redevelopment activities in the fiscal year 24, 25, and future.
What he said.
So moved?
You want to make a
I
motion?
make a
as
motion,
stated?
what he said.
A motion as stated, as the city attorney, that'd be okay?
Yeah, I think
Looking for,
stated well.
I'll make a motion to, as stated by the city manager.
I'll second.
got a motion by Board Member Willis, second by Board Member Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, City Clerk?
Board Member Davis? 4. Board Member Jackson?
4.
Vice Chair Kellum? 4. Chair Morrison?
4.
Board Member Willis?
4.
Okay. Passes 5-0. And with that,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I have one request of the economic director here. Could I get, or the board get, a roster of any businesses or private citizens in Cape Canaveral who have applied for any grants from the CRA?
Be happy to give that to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, also, I'm in the process of putting together the fiscal year report for the CRA for 22-23. And as part of that, we look at this year's tax increment, what the CRA is valued at. And just as some background information, our CRA went up by 14% last fiscal year, which is great, super exciting. And it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. So it's a very, very healthy fund for the city. And it should continue to perform very, very well.
Thank you for that update. And thank you, Board Member Willis, for that request. I'd love to see that too, if we are able to distribute it. Any other final comments, reports before we adjourn? Okay, with that, meeting adjourned.